Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today, we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Fun week. We had the last presidential debate. We're a few weeks away of the elections. Whoever you want to vote for, just go out and vote. Let your voice be heard. One of the great things that I've heard so far in regards to the elections, no matter what side you're on, because remember, these videos I always keep apolitical. Don't talk about politics, so it doesn't matter who you love, who you hate. Just talk about the facts. That more people have voted, about 20%. The number of people that have voted is much, much higher than the last election. So just go out and vote. Monday, investors, the market closed lower due to the fact that the hopes for a stimulus between the government is dwindling a little bit in terms of if we can get a deal. The whole situation with the coronavirus as well, rising in cases affected as well. On Tuesday, the market was higher, and sorry if you can hear the wind. It's pretty windy right now. Beautiful day, though, 50 degrees. Blue skies. I don't know if you guys you can't see the blue skies there. Oh yeah, you can see them a little bit, right? You see them a little bit? Anyway, so Tuesday market was higher. Investor optimism on a potential deal for Congress. Wednesday, the market was lower as investors waited for the stimulus. Two of the items that they're still pending on, or let's say negotiating on, is aid for the states and liability protections. Thursday, the market was higher after Senator Nancy Pelosi said that there's a potential. The deal is just about there, she said. Republicans offered $1.9 trillion, with Democrats offering $2.2 trillion. And then markets were mixed on Friday as investors carefully watched the negotiations of the stimulus. So essentially, this whole week was really about the stimulus. Obviously, we had the situation with the elections, but I don't think that really affected the markets that much. The Dow for the week is down 0.95%. Overall for the year, it's still down 0.71%. S&P 500 was down 0.53%. While for the year it's up 7.26, and then the NASDAQ was down 1.06% for the week, and for the year it's up 28.71%. In overseas market news, a lot of investment funds are flowing far more into Euro stocks now in recent months, with a lot of investors looking to diversify due to the fact that there's much, much higher stock valuations in the U.S. Essentially, they're saying, well, maybe this is a little bit too expensive. And then on top of that, they wanted to hedge their bets in terms of the election that's coming up as well. If you guys don't know, Goldman Sachs, which is the most important or one of the most important brokers and financial institutions in the U.S., a lot of the presidents of the Fed, the central bank in the United States, literally it's like a rotating door where they go from the Fed to Goldman Sachs and the Fed. They actually said that there's an expectation that the stock market's going to go down if Biden is elected. In European markets are mostly lower this week. The DAX was the biggest loser of them all, 2.08% negative. That's the German market, if you didn't know. Canada was down 1.04%. The Latin American markets was mostly positive. The Merval in the Socialist Republic of Argentina went up 7.11%. In the Africa and the Middle Eastern markets, South Africa, the most positive of them all, 0.53%, with Egypt being the most negative at 3.05%. And then in the far, far east, the Philippines being the most positive of them all at 9.92%, with the SEC in China being down 1.78%. Huge. It's going to be huge. Did I do it right? It's going to be huge news for Bitcoin. Huge. That one was pretty good, that last one, right? The Bitcoin space, huge news. PayPal has officially joined crypto. They said they're going to allow customers to buy, sell, and hold Bitcoin and other virtual coins as well, starting in 2021, in addition to allowing them to shop in the 26 million merchants on its network. The PayPal shares went up 5.50%, $213.07 on the news. Bitcoin surged 7% to 12,760, and for the week, it's up 14.49% at just under 13,000, 12,949.60. But it's still not going to get to 50,000 this year, as I told you guys in the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the week. we'll see if we can get a bigger rise up, right? Let's see, for example, if this news, in my opinion, really should have allowed it to go up a lot, which 14% is quite a bit. But let's see if we can continue to get a run in the upside in regards to the price of Bitcoin. Financial and banking news, the U.S. deficit, bad news in regards to this, and total debt is topping levels not seen since 1946, right after the World War, the Second World War, in fiscal year 2020, which ended on September 30th. So it's not like you and I, for example, it's January to December. For the government, it's October 1st to September 30th. The deficit hit 3.13 trillion for the year, the fiscal year, which is October 1st to September 30th. As a share of the economy, the 2020 deficit tripled what it was in 2019. The total federal debt went to $27 trillion, which is about 154% of the economy. The debt hasn't been this high since 1946, when it was at 106% of the economy, of the size of GDP. Now, I've given you a few lessons in regards to the debt load, a debt in any form. When it gets to that magnitude, just think of your personal finances, for example. If you make $50,000 a year and you owe, let's say, $70,000 in debt, that's not bueno, right? So everybody doesn't think that a country can fail. I think that we are. If you guys, I wanted to do a video. As you guys can see, I'm starting to do more of the videos now. I wanted to explain how we got into this situation, essentially, because it's not just the COVID, right? But we have a situation where we're accumulating so much debt that we're really not going to be able to get out of it. We're not going to be able to get out of this hole. And that, I think, is going to be the final nail in the dollar, because the dollar, I believe, within about, I would put it at 6 years is going to collapse. And I would put it a time frame, because obviously it can range depending on what the governments are going to do, what happens. For example, nobody expected this coronavirus, even though, if you guys remember, last year I did talk about a black swan event this year. But I would say 6 years with a two-year time frame either way. So it could be as 2024 or possibly 2028, depending on what they actually do. Now, and this is a thing, and this is why I don't like politics in general. I don't like government in general, because if you think about it, Trump essentially added about $7 trillion of debt, right? Give or take, right? Not trillion here, trillion there, let's just round it off. So Trump added almost as much debt as Obama added in 4 years, when Obama was in 8 years. So, and obviously he has the coronavirus and other things as well, but, Obama did have the situation with the 2008 financial crisis as well. So I'm not going to blame anybody. Let's just talk about the numbers. In 4 years, Trump almost has added the same amount of debt that Obama has added, and Obama added more debt than every single president combined in the history of the United States. It's literally, the debt has just gone parabolic. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for you or me. You being an American, if you guys are overseas, skip this section. But it's not good when a country does that and has that amount of debt. Anytime you hit 100%, it's really not good at all. The cost to service that debt, $522.8 billion, which is the lowest since 2007 due to the fact that we've had such record low interest rates, right? Everybody's slashed their interest rates overall. So, once the interest rate starts to peak up just a little bit, that's when we're going to have problems. Because, if you owed, for example, in the example that I gave you, $70,000 worth of debt, and it's, let's say, at all 10%, and all of a sudden it goes to 13%, that means that your interest, your payments, can go up quite a bit. Other than that, UBS, which is a Swiss banking and investment firm, the largest wealth manager globally, is saying that the reports of Q3 net profit are nearly doubling to $2.1 billion during the same period in 2019. They're going to allow to return some of that to investors as well. Shares are up 7% in the pre-market. And also we had a situation with the second wave of the coronavirus going through Europe. They've already had a fragile economy. An economy like Spain, for example, second most visited country in the world in terms of tourism. This isn't the official number, but I think the tourism, both directly and indirectly in Spain, for example, is about 20%. In a place like Colombia, which is not as, evolved as Spain is in terms of their economy, they're as high as 30%, I would say. And it's been really tough for Europe because they're already having a situation where, their economy is in a really fragile place because of the lockdowns with the coronavirus. So now we have a situation where this could put them over the edge because a lot of banks and other lenders have put aside billions of dollars of bad loans that they're expecting people not to pay because obviously people are losing their jobs or they can't pay, et cetera, et cetera. Commodities, ConocoPhillips is going to buy the U.S. shale producer Concho Resources for $9.7 billion as the energy industry continues to consolidate because of the lower prices. That's another thing as well. This week, U.S. crude went down 2.58% due to the fact that we had one of the biggest oil fields in Libya. I talked to you guys about this last week, where 1 million. Yeah, it's 1 million. Let me double check the number here just to make sure I give you the right data. 1 million barrels a day are going to be added to the supply of oil once the largest oil field in Libya, gets back online completely. That, on top of the fact that we're getting a second wave, seems like everywhere, including the U.S., nobody's traveling, nobody's flying on planes, nobody's driving cars, right? So the demand for oil is really, really low, and now we're adding more oil on top of that. So that's put quite a bit of down pressure on there. And the international Brent went down 2.51% to about 41.77. Now, ConocoPhillips now is going to be the largest independent shale oil producer in the United States. They're one of the biggest producers there in the Permian Basin. That's the area in West Texas and northeastern New Mexico where a lot of the oil is at. Other than that, precious metals higher for the week. Gold was up 0.08% to 1,902, and then silver was up 1.68% to 24.68. And if you guys don't remember the last few years as well, I've been talking about gold and silver quite a bit. We've gotten a great surge now. Political news: the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Muhyiddin, I think, hopefully I got that right, met with the king on Friday to present an emergency proposal, including a suspension of parliament due to the situation with the coronavirus cases. Obviously, they're getting hit hard in terms of the cases. One of the things I recommend you guys look at is the actual CDC numbers that comes from the U.S. government. In the U.S., the mortality rate, the percentage of people that die from the virus, is about 0.04%. Not to say that you shouldn't be careful, but it's not as lethal as we thought it was going to be before. Several Spanish regions are also urging the central government, not the bank, to take further emergency measures as the coronavirus epidemic continues to spread through Spain as well. They want the government to impose curfews and things like that. Sudan, and another huge news in the peace in the Middle East, the Sudan is going to normalize the relations with Israel. The Trump administration is saying that there's at least 5 more Arab countries that are going to want to do a peace deal with Israel, and they're also going to remove Sudan from the list of state sponsors of terrorism, which is going to unlock economic aid and investment in the country as well. In economic news, China's economy in quarter 3 grew by 4.9%, if you can believe the numbers that come from the Chinese government. COVID, obviously, they say that they have it under control, although the growth is a lot slower than what economists has expected. It is a sign of strength. The GDP grew by 0.7% through the first 9 months of 2020. The U.S. Labor Department is reporting good weekly jobless claims at about 787,000, falling by 55,000, ending the week in the 17th of October. I'm butchering this section, aren't I? The economists are polled by the Dow Jones are expecting gains to come in at about 875,000. So it's a good thing, right? They're expecting this number. It dropped by a lot. Less people getting, I don't know if you guys want me to always give you the details of those numbers or just kind of give you a general point where, for example, the weekly jobless claims went down, which is a good thing for everybody. So let me know if you guys want the exact numbers or if you just want me to tell you what they mean. This is the first time since March that the initial claims came in below 800,000. In corporate news, IBM reported quarter 3 revenue. Tesla reported as well. They have reported 3 consecutive declines of quarterly revenue. They fell by 3% on year over year to about $17.56 billion, even though it matched estimates. The decrease in the revenue that they have been receiving brought the shares down so far in 2020 to 13.46% down this year. In trade news, UK has been quite busy this week in terms of the trade deals. The UK and the US are intensifying their trade talks, and the British Trade Minister Liz Truss has said on Tuesday that the start of the 5th round of negotiations, saying that we're in a good position to move forward after the US election, she says. She wants to deliver a deal for all parts of the UK, focusing on modern areas like tech and services. EU and the UK, remember, they still have to sort out a deal due to the fact that that expiration date for them to come to a deal is coming soon. After Brexit, the UK is leaving the European Union. They both said that they both need to compromise on the up until the fast approaching deadline, but the Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, broke off the talks and said it's time to prepare for a no deal. The UK did sign a deal with Japan, which is the first major economy that they did that with since Brexit. It's expected to boost the GDP of the UK by 0.07% over the next 15 years. I'm just going to take a sip of my hot chocolate here because I'm getting a little cold. All right. In technology, shares of Gilead Sciences were up 6% after the FDA formally approved the first drug that's going to treat COVID-19. So it's now officially FDA approved. Alibaba is taking controlling stake of one of China's leading supermarket chains to try to compete with another big online rival called JD.com. So they invested $3.6 billion to increase the stake in the Sunar Retail Group. And Alibaba soon is going to make a general offer to the shareholders to buy out the rest of the company as well. The Ant Group, which is part of Alibaba as well, is one of the biggest tech firms globally and the biggest in China. And they're almost every Chinese person almost does business with them, kind of like WhatsApp or Skype. Nobody really uses Skype anymore, do they? But they everything from investment accounts to micro savings accounts to insurance and credit scores. They're expecting to have their IPO soon, and it's going to be worth about $35 billion, which means it might be the biggest IPO of all time. Rents continue to fall in some of the U.S. most expensive cities as a lot more people are working from home and not going back to work. A lot of people are also looking for more affordable areas to be able to have extra space for offices and things like that. In the great socialist Republic of California, which everybody's leaving, by the way, San Francisco led the nation in rental price declines in September. Down 31% for the studios, down 24% for the one bedrooms, and down 21% for the two bedrooms. U.S. home building rebounded in September as housing starts increased 1.9%. Seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.415 million units last month. Record low interest rates and also migration to the suburbs allow this to happen. The data for August was revised down, but overall it's a good number for the housing starts. The U.S. Justice Department is filing antitrust lawsuit against Google, saying that they engage in anti-competitive conduct to preserve the monopolies in search and search advertising. And this is the reason that the government is saying that they were allowed to continue to grow and the reason why they've become such a vast empire over the last 2 decades. And the U.S. business is acting to increase... the U.S. business activity is increased to a 20-month high in October. Best new pace of business growth and new orders, even though we had the situation with the pandemic, which is still going on as well. The U.S. Composite PMI Index, which tracks the manufacturing and service sectors, hit 55.5% this month, highest level since February 2019. In September, it was 54.3. So essentially that number measures the amount of activity. So a higher number is a better number. In international events, coronavirus now has surged past 40 million infections worldwide. To date, over 1.1 million confirmed cases have resulted in deaths. The U.S. with 8.1 million cases, India with 7.5 million cases, and Brazil with 5.2 million cases are the ones that are the only ones that have seen a 240 confirmed virus deaths in the pandemic so far. So these 3 countries are the only ones that have had 240,000 deaths, because I don't know if I said that clearly or not. By weekends, Europe reported 200,000 daily infections for the first time. So they're getting their second round, and Europe is the only region outside of Latin America where they're having 250,000 deaths. On Saturday. Europe accounts for about 19% of the global deaths, whereas they also account for 22% of the global cases. Russian President Putin said that there's no need to have a military alliance with China at the moment, but he's not going to rule it out for the future, which obviously shows the integration that China is doing with Russia. In addition to that, he's saying that he's making a strong call to try to expand the U.S. and Russia arms embargo that has been in place. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is going to fly to India next week to strengthen ties with India, which is one of the countries that has a military standoff with China. If you guys don't know, there's a little bit of a skirmish, let's say, on a border area there between China and India. And other than that, in unusual facts this week, British billionaire James Dyson, the inventor of the bagless vacuum cleaner, is selling his 3-story penthouse in Singapore for a lot less than what he bought it for. Bought it for $54 million, and he accepted $47 million from a U.S.-based billionaire named Leo Koguan. That's your news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. You leave a like there on the video. It helps a lot with the algorithm, and we'll see you next week.